Welcome to another edition of Dress Up Mom. Today we're going to be talking about reselling your clothes, footwear, and accessories. This is a particularly good thing to do once you've done your big closet clean out, your initial one, and then at your maintenance intervals, which for me is every 3 months. There are even people who go and scour garage sales and thrift shops with the specific purpose of finding things to resell and make money on. Today we're going to just focus on sort of the novice reseller and a person that just wants to go in and maybe make a little bit of extra money. I know when I first started doing it, I was a little bit apprehensive, but now I have a lot of fun with it and sometimes make a little bit, sometimes I don't. There's a difference between consigning and selling. When you consign your items, you leave them at the shop and then you only get a percentage back when and if the clothes sell. There's usually a simple contract that talks about the duration of time you're going to leave them, the percentage that you make when they sell, and when to come pick them up if they don't. I'm going to do a whole upcoming segment on consigning, but today we're going to talk about the places that will actually buy your clothes flat out for either cash or credit in the store or some combination of the two. I'm really excited today because I have a special guest with me. It's my son, Dane. And Dane used to be a buyer at a really popular resale shop chain here in the San Diego area called Flashbacks. So Dane's going to walk us through selling your clothes and give us some tips for that. So Thanks for being here, Dane.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
So can you walk us through the process of selling clothes? What happens? Just kind of tell people some tips and what you've noticed from being a buyer.
Yeah, sure. So you definitely want to figure out a good time that works for you to come in. I know a lot of times in the morning or later on at night, it's not such a huge rush. So that's a good thing. So to make you feel more comfortable, because if you're going right around like lunchtime, noon, there could be a huge line of people. And maybe if you're a first-time buyer, you want more of a one-on-one experience with the buyer. So that's something just to start off to ease it in, which most people wouldn't think.
You're right, because it can take some time.
Yes.
There might be people ahead of you and all of that. And I guess maybe people need to check and see if there are certain days or times that people buy, or do they usually buy all the time?
Where I worked, we bought all the time, except for Sundays it would cut down short. So you might want to call ahead and just say, oh, what are your buying hours? Is your buy counter open? Things like that. So after you decide the right time to come, then that's the fun part. You just bring in your clothes. I always preferred when they were kind of arranged neatly, just as like a first time thing. You don't want to bring like a huge garbage bag of like, here's my pile of stuff. Like I know mom always brings them in like a nice bag all folded. It makes the process a lot easier, and just like your initial, okay, this person took the time to, like, they care a little bit about us too.
That's great.
So these are things even before you're looking at the actual clothes that are kind of can make you feel more comfortable because you're putting your best foot forward. Right? And then, so in terms of things that you're going to sell, obviously we look for things that are seasonal. So in the summer, we want summery things. In the winter, we want, cardigans, sweaters. They have to be in new or like new condition unless they're vintage. Then if it's a legitimate vintage item, then, you can kind of play into that a little more. And the third thing that we look for is if it's current and on trend.
Okay.
So if you have a top from 2002, most likely it's not going to work.
Okay.
But that's for anyone, depending on if it's like the cutest top or not.
Got it. Okay. And so I think that I know I was a little bit intimidated at first. The first time that I went in, just felt really uncomfortable. Do you have any tips about that? Or is it just do it a couple times and you start getting less intimidated?
I remember when I would first go into the shop that I ended up working and becoming a buyer, I was petrified, and like mom would have to drag me and be like, I don't want to go. Because usually these people at the buy counter, they're not like clean cut like me. They're kind of they're tatted up, they have pink hair, but deep down they have a passion for fashion just like anyone else. And they have to buy what is going to sell for the shop. So you don't, just because they look like a harsh person that wouldn't wear your clothes doesn't mean they don't have the clientele for that. Like I know at the Flashbacks I worked at, we're in Encinitas, so it's more of, you know, not like the OC kind of look, but beachy. And then the one in Hillcrest, which is more urban, we would take more vintage, crazy kind of stuff. So if you're afraid to go in, just know that any kind of clothes, it doesn't matter what you think they're gonna want, it's still worth a look. And this is our job to look through clothes, so don't ever feel awkward about like, oh, they're not gonna like my stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
it is a mindset.
Yeah, definitely. Because we take Anthropology, Urban Outfitters, Forever 21, all the way up to like Tory Burch, create like the high-end designer and anything in between.
Okay, great. Well, and you brought up a good point too. I think it's important to know the merchandise or the shop. Shop in the stores that you're going to resell to, because then you'll get a better sense of the type of merchandise that they carry, so you know what to bring to the different places.
Right.
So you mentioned something about, you know, pricing and money. I think the first couple times that I went in, I expected to get a lot more money for my clothes. So I would say, don't expect to get anywhere near what you bought them for unless you really do have a high-end, unique vintage piece, which you may not even know you have. So can you maybe tell us a little bit about how buyers at these places price the clothes and, you know, how you get paid, how we, the person bringing them in, get paid?
Sure. So we actually have to do a lot of training on this. I know at Flashbacks, I'm sure with any vintage or resale clothing, usually it's a third of the price that it would retail for is what we would price the garment at.
Oh, okay. So for example, if I was buying it in the store, it'd be $100. You would price it at
like 30, maybe 35. So it is a huge markdown, obviously, from what you paid for it. So a lot of people are attached to those like True Religion designer jeans that they had 3 years ago and paid $184 for. The max we can price them for, even if they're in great condition, would be like $40, $45. That's what we price it in our store, but then you only get half store credit, or I think it was, what, 25%?
maybe like 30, right?
Or 25 to 30% of what we price it for.
Okay, so let's say you're pricing at 40, I could get store credit for $20 worth, and then maybe you would buy it for 15.
Yeah.
So you're not getting rich, but you might get a little bit of something and have some fun with the store credit.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I always would think the store credit is the way to go, especially if you start to find good things at. So it kind of can be like a revolving closet. Like, okay, like I want to focus on like a more black and white for the fall, and like you can sell like your colored stuff and go store credit and buy like all black and white.
Right. Or the less is more.
Yeah.
Sell a bunch of stuff and only buy like one nicer thing back.
True. She has the less is more. I kind of like to, because I'm young, just like keep going. But
yeah, that's a fun way to do it too. Yeah. So I guess the only other last thing I would say is to not take it personally either if something isn't bought. Because in the beginning, some of the things I thought were great, I would sort of take personally. Now I have a whole different mentality where I figure, okay, if it wasn't bought, then for sure it's a good thing I got it out of my closet, because it probably isn't as good as I thought it was anyway. So you got to go in there and not take any of it personally and really have a lot of just fun with it.
And sometimes you could the sad thing is sometimes the inventory is super full. Like we just got someone right ahead of you who brought in 50 pairs of jeans. We bought all of them. So your pair of jeans kind of loses out. So then I try another store maybe.
Timing.
Yeah, so timing is definitely important, and it could be a seasonal item like, oh my god, this cashmere sweater is so cute, but we're not going to sell it, it's going to sit on the rack. So then you kind of have to, so it's not always personally like your stuff isn't good, it's just what our store can handle and not.
Absolutely. All right, well, any other quick tips for the folks out there that are trying to resell for the first time?
Just don't be scared and do it, and like, practice makes perfect. You're gonna get to see you're gonna see different people, and maybe you like one girl and you only want to sell to her and you have a connection with her, you're talking. That happens a lot. I have people that I'm friends with Facebook on just from selling their clothes.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and people you would never even think you would have a commonality with. So don't judge a book by its cover. We're not judging your clothes by what you look like. We just have to do it based on what our customers can buy. So.
Well, thank you so much for
Thanks, Mom.
being our guest here today. Hopefully we'll have Dane on another segment and maybe go do some shopping with him for men or even some women's shopping. He's really great at this too. So Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of Dress Up Mom. Please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, dress it up a little.